Bells will be ringing, the sad, sad news. Oh, what a Christmas to have the blues. Hey, it's Nate, and today I am doing Please Come Home for Christmas by Charles Brown, and perhaps made more famous by the Eagles. This one is so fun to play and sing on piano. Here's the deal. I've gotten a lot of requests for the Eagles version, so I am basing my arrangement on that. The Charles Brown recording is actually incredibly similar to the Eagles version, but in a different key. The Eagles did it in A, and the Charles Brown version is in E. For this song, the key of E is a lot more comfortable for my voice, and I suspect that'll be the case for a lot of you. So in the very few spots where they differ, I'm going to follow the Eagles arrangement, but I'm doing it in Charles Brown's key of E. Let's jump in. All right, so first off, I recommend you get the chords and lyrics chart. There's a link down in the description. That'll help you follow along and see where the chords and the lyrics line up with each other. But let's start out with the intro, those church bells. So no chords here. Here are the notes, and it's gonna sound like this. Of course, I've got my sustain pedal down, so it all just rings out. We've got E, B, C sharp, G sharp. And you don't need to worry about the counting so much. You just kind of feel it out and play them out of time. Now, you could do it single notes in either octave if you can't reach the octave. I think it sounds really nice as octaves. And you could even do something like that if you can't stretch, but you want that octave sound. So once you play that intro, you can just keep that sustain pedal down, take as long as you want before we have bells will be ringing, and we launch into the first verse. Here's the chords for the first verse, kind of a lot going on, but luckily the rhythm is pretty simple and stays consistent. We're gonna start out on an E major chord. I've got an E, a G sharp, and a B. Here's middle C for reference. And then a couple octaves lower, I'm just doing a single E bass note with my fifth finger. Next, we've got an E major 7 over B. So I'm gonna drop my first finger down to a D sharp. The G sharp and B stay the same. And we're gonna come up to the fifth of the chord, the B. It's gonna sound like that. And I know, E major 7, and you don't see an E here. In context, we're stepping down these different E 7th chords, and the ear still hears it as an E chord, but with the fifth in the bass. Okay, then we've got the E7. So all you gotta do in the right hand is drop that first finger down one more time to the D natural. We still got the G sharp and B, and we are gonna come back to the E root. And we're on this E7 for 2 measures. Now we're in 6/8 time, so each of these measures get 6 counts. We're thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And right off the bat, to help just keep time and get the vibe going, I'm gonna just pulse on every single count in the right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's just loop it on the E for a second. To really get the vibe, you wanna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Accent the 1 and 4 a little bit so they pop out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. So far we've got and another measure of that. All right, next line starts with an A major chord. We've got 2 measures of this. I'm using my second finger on the A bass note here, and then in the right hand we've got an E, an A, and a C sharp. So this is an inversion of an A chord, and that's, like I said, 2 measures, and then we have 2 more measures of A sharp diminished. So I like to kind of tuck my first finger to take over that A and then use my second finger for the A sharp. You can use your first, but I think that feels a little bit better. And then for the right hand chord, all you got to do is move that A and the third finger up to an A sharp. The E and the C sharp stay the same. And like I said, that's 2 measures as well. So for this line, we've got okay, now we're back to E. Though thinking ahead, I like to get my fourth finger in the left hand on the E bass note here. So we've got E, then we go up to A, voice just like before, but I've got my first finger on the bass note, and that's just for a measure. The reason we did this was it puts you in position to put your third finger on this E, because we do go back to the E here, but we start stepping down. So we need those fingers. We've got a measure here with 2 chords in it, evenly divided. So in 6/8 time, that's 3 counts of each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For that E over D sharp, the only thing that changes is the bass note. What comes after the slash is just the left hand note, while we still do that E major triad in the right. And then we're gonna land down on this C sharp minor for a full measure. So 5th finger there in the left, and then we're keeping our 1st finger on E, and we can have 2nd finger on G sharp, 5th finger on the C sharp. So for this line, we've got let's finish up this verse here. So next we've got the F sharp 7, and we're in really good position in the right hand. So I'm gonna probably do my 3rd finger on this F sharp bass note, but we can keep the E and the C sharp in the right hand right where they are, and you're just gonna need an A sharp for that middle note on the 3rd finger. And we're on that for 2 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 more chords. B, an inversion of B here with 1st finger on the B bass note, and then we've got D sharp, F sharp, and B. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, B augmented. So the 5th of the chord, this F sharp, is just gonna go up a half step to a G natural. You might want to use your 3rd finger there. Always love it when an augmented chord is tastefully used in the song. They're strange sounding, but they can be really nice. So again, that line. And you can keep the rhythm exactly like that if you'd like, but let's talk about adding a little bit more groove to the left hand. So we have these 6 counts. So far, we've just been playing that bass note on count 1. Let's start also playing it on count 6. So just looping the E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you get that little double hit as it loops around. I'll play through this whole verse progression with that left hand rhythm before just adding a few more optional details and then cruising on with the rest of the song. And I do just want to note, unlike most songs, I am not using the sustain pedal much for this song. We want that kind of detached, crisp sound with the right hand chords, and the sustain pedal kind of ruins that effect. So I'm not going to use the pedal at all on this playthrough here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Finally, I want to give you the option to do a little bit more of the bass line in the left hand. I'm going to go a little out of order because if you're going to do it in one spot, it is at the beginning of the 3rd line when we have just the single measure of E going up to the A. So this is where I've just moved to the 4th finger, and what we want is this little walk up on the F sharp, G sharp to A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's on 5 and 6 coming up. And you might want to hit the E on 4 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's, I think, pretty crucial to the song to do that one. And I actually think it sounds good to lean into the sustain pedal a little bit there. And then lift. So that can be really cool. Now going back to the start of the verse, the first instance of an optional extra bass line bit is going up to the B for the E major 7 over B. It would sound like this. So that's just hitting the 3rd of the E chord, the G sharp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So same rhythm we've been doing with an extra hit on beat 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The one final optional thing would be a walk up from the F7 to the B. Now, if you're doing this, I would try to land on my fourth finger. I think I said third before. And so this would work very similar to the other walk-up we did, but it's going to be G sharp and A sharp on the 5, 6. So, to wish me greetings once again. The bass does that on the recording, but I don't love doing it for whatever reason, but if you like it, you can throw it in. So let's hear that all come together with the vocals. Bells will be ringing, the sad, sad news. Oh, what a Christmas to have the blues. My baby's gone, I have no friends to wish me greetings once again. Okay, and then we would be cruising right into verse 2. Here's the chords for verse 2. We can start going a little faster now because a lot of it is the same. Aside from the lyrics changing, the first 3 lines here are exactly what we just did. After that walk down from the E over D sharp, C sharp minor, we're still going to go to the F sharp 7. This time it's just for one measure before we go to a B7. So this is the first time we've seen that. We're going to come up to that B bass note, but this time it's going to be D sharp, F sharp, and A there. I tend to do 1, 2, and 3 here, and that's just for one measure before we come back to E, E7. So this time we're skipping the E major 7 and just dropping our first finger down a whole step to the D. And that's going to be leading into the bridge. So again, the first 3 lines are the same as the first verse. I'll just play it from the beginning of the 3rd line. Please come home for Christmas. Please come home for Christmas. If not for Christmas, by New Year's night. Friends and relations. So before we wrap up the second verse, I do want to just point out that ending there because we're getting to the bridge now. The bridge starts on the A. So there is a walk up at the very end of the measure with E7. You can do the same way we've walked up to A in the middle of the verses. By New Year's night, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, friends and relations. Okay, so this A I am playing is the start of the bridge. Here's the chords to the bridge. A lot of them we have seen already. So it does start on that A. Friends and relations, send salutations. Okay, so this is the first time we've seen an A minor, and it's stepping outside the key a little bit here. So we're just gonna take that C sharp and just drop it down to a C natural, and that is for 2 measures. Now we're back to E for a measure, to B augmented for a measure, to E, to E7. I know I'm going a little faster here, but we have gone over all of these chord voicings in the verses. And we're going to do another walk up here. So from the E to the E7. But this is Christmas. So same thing here. Christmas, my dear, time of year. Okay, so now we're going to F7, or F sharp 7 rather, and just notice how smooth this transition can be from the A minor. First finger's already where we need it. We're just taking each of these, the A and the C become A sharp and C sharp. Gonna just drop down to the F sharp bass note there. That is going to be for 2 measures before we have a B, just like we've voiced it before. Now notice on that B, that's the first time we really break the rhythm here. We're just gonna hit and hold. Time of year to be with the one you love. But I have an asterisk on this B augmented because everything kind of stops on the Eagles recording here, and there's just this little guitar line doing an arpeggio on a B augmented chord that sounds like this. Or you might want to use the sustain pedal. So it's a little bit of a different inversion. You do hit the root. I'm going to do it all in the left hand. You could totally split it between the hands if you need, but it's just going to be B, D sharp, G, B. And then once you do that arpeggio, you can just hold it out for a second measure here to complete the line. The timing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, so won't you? And then it drops into the next verse. I'll play that whole bridge. Friends and relations send salutations. Sure as the stars shine above. But this is Christmas. Yes, Christmas, my dear. The time of year to be with the one you love. So won't you tell me? So on tell there, I'm getting back to E for verse 3. Here's the chords to verse 3. First two lines are the exact same as the other verses, but then it gets a little weird. This is a little bit of a doozy here. The chords start moving every 3 counts for a good number of measures in a row. And we have a new chord, the G sharp 7. So after the 2 measures of A diminished, we're gonna have an E just for 1 measure. And then we're gonna come up to G sharp 7. I'm gonna use my 3rd finger here for a G sharp bass note. And then the left hand's gonna do a D sharp, an F sharp, and a C here for a measure. Okay, and then here's where we're going. I'll play the next little bit just so you can hear what it sounds like. Okay, it's really fun once you get the hang of it. So after the G7, we're gonna come up to a C sharp minor, same way we've voiced it before, and that's just for 3 counts. 1, 2, 3. Gonna step down to a B bass note here while keeping the C sharp minor in the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A, 2, 3, A sharp diminished. So those are voiced the same way we've been doing it. They're just happening in rapid succession. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we've got E over B. We're gonna voice that root position E major like we've been doing, but the first finger here is on B. I'm using my first finger here and then crossing the second finger over to go back to C sharp minor. And that's still doing the fast pacing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Coming to the F sharp 7. I'll probably do 5th finger there. 4th would also work. Voice the same way we've been doing it. Just notice how smooth that is from the C sharp minor there. Only thing that needs to change is that middle note to 3rd finger on A sharp. So only 3 counts there before a B7. I'm gonna put my first finger there and B7 voice that same way with 1, 2, 3 on the D sharp, F sharp, and A. And then we're gonna come to E. And once we get to that E, you can kind of breathe a sigh of relief because we're on that for a full measure before turning around to a full measure of B augmented. I'll sing through that new bit really slowly. There'll be no more sorrow, no grief and pain, and I'll be happy, happy once again. And that leads into the solo / verse 4. We've got another verse here. Here's the chords for this. You'll notice it looks basically like what we just did. So when we get to the third line of this verse, it's got that really fast-paced chord progression again. For the first 2 lines, though, that's where the guitar solo is. So it sort of stands in for the first half of this verse. I didn't mention it, but in the full band arrangement, the piano is actually up higher. I thought for solo piano, it sounds nice to have the chords more in this range because we don't have a guitar doing anything in there. But you could pick or choose. For my arrangement, just for while the guitar solo is happening, just for some variety, I'm going to hop my hand up an octave and do the chords just for those 2 lines up here. So that's going to sound like this. Ooh, there'll be no more sorrow. So I'm going to jump back down the octave, and this is, I'll play it one more time because this is the trickiest part of the song, but the lyrics are slightly different, but it's exactly like what we did at the end of verse 3, except I'm delineating this verse as ending on the B7. I'll show you why in a sec. Ooh, there'll be no more sorrow, no grief and pain, and I'll be happy Christmas. So on this F sharp 7, the song is winding to a close here. I'm going to hit that F sharp 7, Christmas, once, just hold that, and you can let the tempo go a little bit here. Once again. So we are going to the E major on once again, just like we did at the end of the last verse, but I'm considering this E major the beginning of the outro section. So here's the chords to the outro section. Now I charted it out in time because I think it's helpful, but the tempo really kind of breaks down here. It really slows down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The simplest way would be to voice these A's just like we've been doing it and just adding a C sharp bass note for the A over C sharp. Now rhythmically, again, at a slower tempo, but those little dashes after the E represent 2 more counts of E before the A's. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, E over B. So E like we've been doing it, but hitting the B bass note. And I think that sounds really good. But to take it a step further to mimic the guitar voicings in this cool little final moment, I'm just going to add one more note to the left hand. You can totally take this or leave it, but I'm going to hop the left hand up, keeping the C sharp on the bottom because it's A over C sharp, but I'm also going to add the A root here. I'm going to do something similar here, where we're keeping that B on the bottom, but adding the G sharp in the left. So that whole line would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. And again, you're just kind of letting it ring out before, while you keep the sustain pedal down here. So I am going to hold the sustain pedal when I hit that E over B. And while that's ringing out, you can just do a final. Exactly like I showed you in the intro. Just let all that just ring out, and then the song is over. All right, thank you for sticking with me. I'll now do a full playthrough so you can see how all these parts fit together. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click the bell so you know when I put out more videos like this one. Okay, here is my version of Please Come Home for Christmas. Bells will be ringing, the sad, sad news. Oh, what a Christmas to have the blues. My baby's gone, I have no friends to wish me greetings. Choirs will be singing, silent night, Christmas carols by candlelight. Please come home for Christmas. Please come home for Christmas. If not for Christmas, by New Year's night. Friends and relations send salutations. Sure as the stars shine above, but this is Christmas. Yes, Christmas, my dear. The time of year to be with the one you love. So won't you tell me you'll never more roam Christmas